Begin PODFIX network transmission in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, this is former WWF Light Heavyweight Champion Gilbert, brother, and you're listening to the Cretans Guild Podcast.
Hello, Cretans, and welcome back to this episode of the Cretans Guild Podcast. This is going to be a continuation of the last episode where Corey and I were discussing the writers and actors striking. And this episode, we're going to talk a little more about that on top of such as the introduction of artificial intelligence, more on the graphical side, and you'll get to hear it. So again, this is the Cretans Guild Podcast presented to you by PODFIX. Find them at podfixnetwork.com and enjoy the show. Getting back to some of the gray areas that we don't really know how much it's going to... I mean, the last time there was a shutdown like this, you remember some of the shows, they either ended outright or ended very badly. Like, I think Sarah Chronicles, that show just, like, let's just end it. It's done.
That's why I was like, I thought this would have... Oh my God, no! There was a whole decade in between now and the 2000s, isn't there?
Yeah. It was like I think it's what killed. I think it's what killed Heroes.
It's what killed Heroes.
Yeah.
I thought. Nah, Chuck didn't have any. Nah, Chuck was a few years later. I thought Chuck actually took a season off because of some sort of a strike or something else or something or other. But maybe I'm mistaking it for something else.
Well, we're probably... I don't know how long this strike is going to go on. I mean, I've seen some of the writers say, hey, we can hold out till October, November, the end of the year or so.
Yeah.
I don't know just how long everyone else... I mean, not just actors and writers. Yeah, we want them to get their money, but also... season 2 killed Heroes. Yeah, it was going down the hill without a doubt. The writer's strike just gave them a reason.
The writers were the bullet. The writer's strike was the gun. Right.
The writer's strike was like, no, Ma, it's my dog. Whenever I can bring back to Old Yeller.
I saw that some of this is an interesting side effect, by the way. Thanks for mentioning this review, Rob. I saw it doesn't sound kind of weird to say their like whole name. It's just like Rob and Rob, but you've got two Robs here, and we have to differentiate. I saw some of the studios are moving shows for reruns for network TV, like that CBS is putting Yellowstone show up, and this surprised the living shit out of me. Miss Marvel.
That's another thing that's going on. It's driving me insane.
They're pulling Miss Marvel off of streaming, and that's opening up the flood fucking gates. Oh my God. They're taking content from off of streaming and then putting it on the air, which is like genius evil shit. I mean,
it makes me go back to this whole thing with streaming is just, it's so freaking shady of like what's going on here. Like some of these actors and writers, their contract says that if their show goes to HBO, it says in the contract HBO Max, then they get these residuals and they get these payments, whatever. That streaming service just changed its name to just Max, and the reasoning they say publicly was that Max or HBO is thought of more as adult entertainment with Game of Thrones and Sopranos. I think it's mostly because that way they can get out of some of this contract talk where they owe money if it's going to stream on HBO Max, and Max, which is a complete... It's not like they took the engine for HBO Max and just moved it over. It's a different website. It's a different everything. It's completely 100% new, different streaming service, and I would not be surprised if that's the reason why they made that change.
And that's a very bizarre line of logic too, because when I think of like a premium, like grown-up entertainment, I'm not going to think of Dude, I haven't thought of Cinemax since an age when it was like, you know, adult entertainment, and you had to stay up until 2 a.m. to catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whenever
you say Max, and I'm like, oh, Skinemax?
Yeah, exactly. It's like they don't have that anymore. But don't ask me how I know. But HBO is what I think of when I think of Game of Thrones. When I think of Westworld. Oddly enough, oh fuck, it's probably because I'm like pushing my very meager brain too hard here. What was the Western
Soprano?
with Sopranos? Thank you. But it was the old Western with Ian McShane and Timothy Olyphant, and it's really good. And I've been watching it, and I can't remember the title of it.
Yeah, neither can I.
Fuck it, whatever.
Tombstone? No.
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 Deadwood?
Deadwood, thank you. Yes. Fucking A. Which is a great show. But like,
thanks, Rob.
I think there it is. But that's what I think of when somebody says HBO. Is those things. Cinemax has been like a dead brand effectively for like over a decade now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, totally what I think of when somebody says grown-up entertainment is Scooby-Doo, which Max definitely has a bunch of Scooby-fucking-Doo all up and down its catalog. 20 movies and at least 6 TV shows by my count. Watch Mystery Incorporated, it's excellent.
The only movies on Cinemax is what's been on HBO for the last 10 years.
Right? I mean... Okay, so now that you mentioned that, and you mentioned like the technical specifics of residual payouts, does that all make sense? Because something that made me think of something very, very shady that had been going on. Oh, I'm sorry. What do we got? I didn't even know Cinemax was Skinemax is no more, but Cinemax lives on. Deciding to do that right after Disney CEO said they put too many shows out for Marvel.
No, Bob Iger actually said that, which, for the longest time, I actually was a big Disney Plus supporter because that was the one streaming service that never took anything off. Their library, if something went there, it stayed there. You didn't have to worry about it going away. Netflix, after 1 week, fuck it, get rid of it. Yeah. HBO Max, we're getting rid of this. Disney Plus, it would keep it on forever, and now they're starting to get rid of stuff. What are you short on server space? Why would you do this?
Do you remember when, like, back in like the early days of streaming, people kind of thought of it as like this open crypt where a bunch of really old shit that didn't have very like stringent rights holder. I'm sorry, that's not what I'm trying to say here. The people that held the rights to it didn't really know what to do with it, so they just kind of like dumped it and leased it out to Netflix. Say, here, have Kolchak the Night Stalker. Yeah. Sure, we're not making any money with Knight Rider. I think that's the show that made NBC go, wait a fucking minute. People are sampling the theme song. Maybe somebody remembers Knight Rider. Maybe we should have Knight Rider. But yeah, it was just basically if a movie didn't do that well, it would go over to, well, sure, Drag Me to Hell, we'll drop you on Netflix for about a year. Firefly lived on Netflix for like a decade.
That's where I watched it.
Yeah, that's where I first discovered it. Yeah. And I kind of thought that like because of that would leave a lot of these people that weren't making money with these dormant properties for the longest time to like cull a new audience or to at least invite discovery from some stuff that like isn't of any value to them, not at that moment in time. But then like the nostalgia market fucking sent up a bunch of red flags, and the people were like, no, we got to cash in on this shit right now. That's when it became frustrating, especially when Netflix began losing all this stuff and it just became a Netflix original, which, by the way, there's only really one good one. I don't care who the fuck you are. Netflix is effectively the Stranger Things streaming service.
Oh yeah, that's my biggest criticism. That's my biggest criticism of Netflix right now. If it's not Stranger Things, if it doesn't do good in its first 5 days, fuck it, you're done.
Yeah, it's out of here. Sorry.
It's a mindset that drives me insane. I was so looking forward to the live action Cowboy Bebop. It hit the air. I'm not like binging it. Because they dropped it all at once. It's not like, I can just watch one episode, come back next week, watch the second episode. No, it's all right there. Do what you want with it. It's like, okay, I'll watch an episode here. I'll take a few days. I'll watch another episode. And then the next thing I hear, we're canceling season 2.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a full week.
Yeah. Netflix is only needed for me with Stranger Things, Wednesday, and Rob Zombies. How is Rob Zombies Monsters, by the way? We'll give you a couple of minutes to load that up.
Okay, Rob Zombie's Monsters. I did see this.
Because it got some really mixed reviews, but I was kind of looking forward to it.
It did. I think the people that don't like it didn't know what they were in for, because the movie, the Rob Zombie Monsters, is very true to the spirit of the original show. It's campy, it's goofy, it's weird.
So you think maybe people that saw Rob Zombie's Monsters really only saw the words Rob and Zombie with nothing else underneath it, and then they were like, oh, let's get in on it.
I think they were either expecting like a true horror movie or like an up-to-date, realistic retelling of the monsters with the Rob Zombie, like, scary twist to it. But no, it was the original Monsters.
That's mean. I don't have it. Who's got anything against Rob Zombie or what's her name? Sherry Moon Pie.
Yeah, I think her role as Lily Munster, I think she was perfect for that, because it's over the top, it's overacted, it's terribly acted.
Yeah, it's all ham.
That's the point of the entire movie. Is like everything is hammy and campy and over the top and like Dutch angles every which way you look. It's a 60s movie in modern day. And that's why I think a lot of people did not like it. They watch it as like, oh, this is terrible. I'm watching it and I'm looking at like some of the really crappy transitional graphics. I was like, this is awesome. This is great.
Yeah, damn, it's too bad I didn't get a good look at it before. We put the kibosh on Netflix over here because they started the whole password sharing thing, which, by the way, if you're experiencing a drop in revenue, Netflix, that might have a little bit to do with it. I don't know.
Yeah. I dropped Netflix. I dropped Netflix a little while ago. Because I was sharing it with my mom because she doesn't have anything else to watch. So I was like, here you go, Mom. By the way, Mom, I'm taking away Netflix. But guess what? You now have Hulu, HBO, or Max.
Yeah.
And Amazon Prime, and you have all these other things that I'm allowed to share the password with you.
9 anime. No, okay, no, sorry. No. You're gonna cut that? I don't want.
No, you need a computer to watch that.
Oh, that's correct. It's the
her
Monsters.
Phone is a little too advanced for her.
Review it. Well, never mind. It's the Monsters made by a Super Monsters fan. He made a song featuring the car, for God's sakes. That's true. I regret not being able to see that before we put the kibosh on it, but I wanted to, because I kind of knew that Netflix's days were numbered over here. Because honestly, I hadn't had Netflix for like 2 years, and whenever somebody like asks, like, "You seen this thing on Netflix?" I say, no, I haven't had it in a long time. It hasn't been worth it to me for at least since 2021. I got to finish Castlevania, which was great. Oh shit! I'm glad I got to put that to bed. But I was in the middle of Cuphead when it got canceled, and I was like, oh, if Cuphead was like the only thing that interested me at the time, well, and the Monsters, but that was kind of like in the back of my head at the time, then I'm not really going to be missing anything else on this, and I don't think anybody else is either. So, whoops.
There's some more gray areas that this strike in FX is really weird, like cosplayers, especially with Comic-Con like right around the corner. Yeah, some cosplay is affected by this strike.
Because people that do cosplay work as professional makeup artists or wardrobers, or but that's crew. That's crew. That doesn't have anything to do.
It's not writers or actors, but it's kind of, some of these cosplayers, they're professional cosplayers, they have SAG cards. Or it's sometimes the characters are being portrayed that were created by writers who are currently on strike. Like I said, it's a weird gray zone. And I think someone said the best way to get yourself in the clearing is actually call up these unions, say, hey, I'm cosplaying as this character. Am I in the clear? And they'll let you know if like yes or no. Now, if you don't have a SAG card, and you do it for fun, don't care. Go for it. Go nuts. But if there's a chance that down the road you're going to apply for a SAG card, it could hurt your chances when you do that.
Maybe those are cosplayers who do it as a side hustle, for which their main hustle is being an actor?
That's what I'm thinking. There are some cosplayers who are pretty big time.
Yeah.
Really well known on the influencer market.
Yeah.
So some of them might, down the line, might apply as a SAG actor. So I think some of the unions were just like, hey, just to be safe, why don't you call the union and find out first?
Something interesting. The voice actors would obviously be underneath the SAG umbrella, right?
Yes.
At least if they're part of a particular segment of the industry. I know that's kind of like an issue in and of itself, because that's why the Scoob voice actors were recast for the movie, because that scale of production or something had to have this set of actors rather than the original voice actors or some crazy shit. But do you remember the guy that like went viral about like 10 years ago for being like a really comic book accurate Joker cosplayer?
No.
Nah?
No. I thought you were
remember.
going to mention Keith Apicary, who's an actor, but he does a lot of online stuff, mostly video game related, where it's not really him. It's a character who's doing these things.
Yeah.
He goes to conventions. He goes to gaming shows and whatever. I've seen him in real life. And I was thinking maybe it's like kind of in that ground. It's like I said, it's a weird gray area. The other thing is Hollywood is going after some online influencers and wanting to hire them to do promotional work, which yeah.
See, that was the thing I was telling you about. That was what I was asking about earlier with like writers that are out of work and are like completely like for just selling their shit and not giving a fuck about taboo or like crossing picket lines or whatever. So influencers are now kind of like getting scabbed out.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's a lot of, yeah. And you see all right, good. You see the issue here.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like, I've been out of work for 2 years. I can't say I would say no, you know?
That was, my friend Sean Roselle he's like big on the TikTok, and he pointed that out. It's like, man, if you're just like a small time influencer and then Disney comes to you, it's like, hey, you want to make this commercial for us since we can't hire any actors? It's really hard to say no when they like wave $2,000 in your face.
Okay, I'm not doing it for $2,000. Are you kidding me? Shit. See, here's the thing. You're selling your soul.
$2,000 and Disney tickets.
Yeah, it's
for you. That's crap. For people who
I moved
Disney
out
content.
of Orlando, man. That
Yeah, well, they obviously would, in this situation, they would be targeting people who are Disney influencers.
Right. Okay. That's a good point. But like, I kind of like had a bit of a similar situation like that a couple of days ago, where it was somebody was like, "Hey, would you be able to do this for like $300?" And I'm sorry, please cut that out. Would you be able to do this at like half the standard rate? And I was like, well, I could, but what do I do here? I really need the work. It's not that much pay, but if they paid for travel and accommodations. So what I did was I asked them if they would be willing to pay for travel and accommodations, and they said no, and they made that decision painfully easy to make.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but I don't know. The thing is that like apparently in that moment, because it was for like 3 days worth of work, my soul does have a pretty chintzy price tag on it. But this is also crewing stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, as a freelancer, and I worked with a bunch of freelancers, if any of us were offered a job that we had to relocate to for 3 days, whatever, and they weren't going to pay for travel, they weren't going to pay, what's the, where they give you money for food? I forget what that's called. Per diem. Thank you.
Yeah.
If they weren't going to offer that, it's like, I'll pass. Thank you. Unless they're paying you over your rate that you were asking for. That's the only situation I would do.
That would be excusable. But like, man, I remember like last year I had a gig out west a little bit, and I ended up like taking Jay's car. I took Jay's car out there and I slept in that fucking thing to do 2 days worth of work, and they were just like, all right, well, here's your 6 and your 6. And they never called me back. I was like, I'm never working for you fuckers again. Not that I'd have the choice, really. That was like that was a grand mal rear ending right there. And even if they like came back to me with something like that, a little bit bigger, yeah, I'd probably work for them. But it's not a good way to do business. And I think that if they like came up to affluence or just like dangling a couple of K's in front of them, like, hey, it's legit money, right? You want to see what Hollywood looks like? I'd be like, fucking, do you pay traveling and accommodations?
No, there's a lot of people that would not agree with you.
All right, here's the real deal behind that. You're more visible too. And if anybody got wind of you doing that, then all of a sudden, let's say the pickets are over and everybody goes home and goes back to work, not at the same time, you know what I mean? Then they'll remember your name. They'll remember you as like the guy that took 2Ks to come out to Hollywood and take somebody else's job for a little bit. Oh, while they were fighting for everybody else's jobs at the same time.
I have seen, when I was working for Golf Channel, remember there was a strike for the live, I don't know if you were there or not, but the live crew were on a strike from Golf Channel.
I remember this. I was up in Chicago at the time, yeah.
Okay,
they talked about it, yeah.
And so they brought in some of the Orlando studio people to go to the location. I think it was in Hawaii. Work the show, do their thing, and go home. And then the some of the union workers were taking photos of these employees who were going in to do a job, getting labeled online as scab, and you would just see like I saw coworkers of mine on these like Instagram or Twitter shots, and they were being labeled as scabs and like, you should never work with this person ever again. It's like, holy shit. So yeah, some of these people are vicious. If you cross picket lines, there are people on the other side who will take note.
Here, Teach, front row, can I ask a question? I got a question.
You gotta go to the bathroom?
No, I don't have to go to the bathroom. I just went to the bathroom.
Okay.
I was wondering, okay, so people that we knew that were working on property that are part of the union were being labeled,
people who worked in the studio in Orlando were going out to fill in for these union workers, and they were being labeled as scabs.
Oh, it obviously didn't stick, because a lot of the people that we know are still very much working.
Yeah, one of them ended up being my supervisor, so...
Yeah, obviously. Which makes me wonder if, like, I'm on... Somebody took a picture of me and was like, don't hire that fuckhead ever again.
Don't worry, I think there's a book out there with my photo in it as well.
I don't know, man. You're banking way more gigs than I've been in the last fucking 2 years, even. That's one thing I keep thinking about is like maybe somebody like actually did say to somebody else, "Don't do this." I've had some really weird rejections, like in the year and change that I've been trying to get work. It's fucking weird. Like the one place that I was at a couple of months ago. Sorry, we're not supposed to be airing grievances here.
Let's.
Yeah, right. Anyway,
I do want to bring up one thing.
Okay.
The artificial intelligence thing. I don't know exactly what that involves because, as we discussed, anything written by AI, it's garbage. So, because the actors are also pushing for this, and the only situation I can think of that they've done this in the past is where James Earl Jones laid down his voice for Star Wars, Disney, whatever. So his voice can be the voice of Darth Vader for eternity.
Right. Yeah.
So that's going to be artificially created of his voice reading the lines from now on.
Yeah, and he agreed to that, but that was also before this all started.
Right, but I'm wondering if it's along those lines that actors are pretty pissed off at, because that's going to that's not going to allow another actor somewhere down the line to be the voice actor of Darth Vader.
Jay was talking about something like this last night. And I was thinking about this since he mentioned it, and I have like my own probably grossly misinformed take on it, but I'll put his out here first. He was talking about this mostly affecting extras and people that would not be in a position to trademark their faces. Like if we're saying, like if we're talking about like the recent Flash movie, you know how Nicolas Cage showed up. By the way, spoiler: Nicolas Cage is in the Flash of Superman.
It was ruined before the movie came out for me.
Yeah, that's fine because the CG was dodgy. People felt like they weren't really ruining much of anything, but whatever. they had his likeness in Superman, and one of the first things that I thought was like, oh, that's pretty funny, it's cute. I wonder how Nicolas Cage was able to get. Oh, because he's Nicolas Cage and he does anything nowadays. So whenever you want to use an actor's likeness, you have to go to that actor and say, hey, can we use your likeness for this? And that affects everything. Do you remember how, like, when licensed pinball machines back in the day would have, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on, like, the back glass, but it didn't look a fucking thing like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
It just looks sort of like him. It's because they couldn't pay for the licensing fees for his
I thought it was just because they hired a bad artist.
Sometimes that happens, but, like, they were able to get most of the actors licenses for the Lethal Weapon machine, which is a great looking table, but they weren't able to get Mel Gibson's, and you can tell. But Joe Pesci's was like spot on. His caricature was like very accurate, and so was Danny Glover's. But same sort of deal. You deal with an actor, you deal with their likeness, you have to pay licensing fees. Not so much with their voice, especially if it's artificially replicated.
Okay.
Whoops. So that's one canard. The thing that Jay had mentioned was that if you are an extra or a sort of a below the table kind of an asset to a production, what had started to become regular practice was that in order to part of your contracts as an extra is to give them your likeness in perpetuity, and they would give you nothing for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously, if some big names and they're going to be used for marketing reasons or merchandise reasons, that would get worked into the contract. Meanwhile, the Left Shark #2 doesn't get any information, any backing whatsoever.
Left Shark was the hero of the entire fucking production. They better give him legacy for that. Screen Rant reviewer Rob with Screen Rant just put out a list of 10 times Hollywood has used a dead actor for a film. And
in those situations, I'm pretty sure it's where they went to the estate of the actor and it's like, hey, we're gonna do this. Do we have your permission to do this and whatever? And we'll pay you. I think because obviously they've done this for Star Wars a couple of times.
They did that with Nancy Marchand when she died before they could kill her off on The Sopranos.
Yeah. Oh God, that was awful.
Who was Nancy Marchand? Well,
she was the mother.
Okay, all right, thank you. Obviously, I've never seen any of the fucking Sopranos except for one episode.
I only know that because I remember seeing footage of, it's like, hey, this actress was replaced after she died, and here's the footage. I'm like, oh my God, that is awful.
Yeah.
But it was also at the time where you could tell money wasn't really being put into HBO wasn't paying for graphics for Sopranos.
Yeah, so they just use like a fake shemp, more or less.
It looked bad, but it kind of it was like somebody was wearing digital clay type of deal. It didn't look good. Thank God that the shots didn't last long, but someone like you and me would note it like right away. It's like, ooh, why does she have lines around her head?
Ouch! God damn it. They reminded me, they did it with John Candy with Wagons East. Remember that?
That wasn't as bad as this. I always think about that one movie they made after Bruce Lee died, where it was starring Bruce Lee, and they just used some footage that he had shot, and there's literally a shot where the actor is looking in a mirror, the camera's pointing at the mirror, and there's just a cardboard cutout on the mirror of Bruce Lee's face, and it looks horrible, just god awful, and that's always what I think of when I hear they've used a dead actor's face. I gotta find that image.
See, the funny thing is I've never seen this movie that you're talking about, and I absolutely fucking must now. But whenever I think of the whole dead actor question, I mean, the second thing that pops into my head is the example from Wagons East. The first thing is, I mean, this doesn't skirt legalities or anything. Carrie Fisher was recently alive, is when they do digital constructs of recently deceased actors, especially as they're like younger selves, and it is like the crassest shit, because it's kind of like it's generally understood among stagecraft that like if a character's actor passes away, then I mean they were able to do it with all. Sorry, I'm kind of chasing two divergent trains of thought here. That you just recast it. Because it's going to be fucking gross either way, and it's going to be a schism of recognizability from jump. And it's kind of traditional to do it on stage productions anyway. Secondly, they did it with Alden Ehrenreich for Solo. Harrison Ford's not even dead. I mean, why would they not recast a younger Carrie Fisher?
Well, remember the flack that movie. Well, that movie got unfair flack because I thought Solo was a great movie.
It was a good movie. I mean, the last line was kind of retarded, but I'm not going to blame it on the entire movie. Like 98 minutes of excellence cannot be undone by just one bad line, maybe 3 bad lines, but it skirts the rule and therefore it endures. Anyway, right. That was more for me than it was for you. I'm just trying to justify that shit. This and the de-aging. Sorry, let me see. Review what Rob's saying.
Oh.
Is this the movie?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up where's the thing? Where's the right? Here we go.
All right. Okay.
So yeah, this is like a cutout of Bruce Lee's face on a mirror, and it's too pixelated to actually tell, but it's
I can
really,
see that
really bad.
There's a hard outline, but to me, because it's a still and because it's kind of crushed, it does look like a cheap matte. And we've seen plenty of cheap mattes. We grew up in the 80s. Maybe in motion, the effect will be a little bit more complete. But I mean, honestly, it does look the kind of bad that special effects people were able to achieve at that time.
The Game of Death. Look, it's called The Game of Death. Just look that up and you'll find it.
All right. I think this review at Rob is saying, I think this and the de-aging has showed the studios they have powers to play with, and it's scary. Now, you see, here's the thing. They did something with another actor and scanned Carrie Fisher for Rogue One, if I remember correctly. Well, they did it with Peter Cushing also, right? With Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to call him Grand Muff Diver because that joke never dies.
There have been times where they get the de-aging really, really bad, which is the majority of time, but there are few instances where it does look really, really good.
The de-aging by itself, with a live actor, tends to not risk much because you still have the actor there as a stand-in. They de-age. I was about to use the worst example, so I'll go ahead with it. They de-aged Kurt Russell for Guardians 2, right? But the man hasn't fucking aged a day past 50 anyway, so...
the flashback scenes,
the flashback sequencers, right. So they had some like pretty solid DNA to work with there. Much respect to the Russells family tree. They did something with Samuel Jackson with Secret Invasion, and I think Captain Marvel also, right?
You're thinking Captain Marvel, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, Secret Invasion also has a de-aged Fury in it as well. And I was like, well, okay, he does age pretty well, but he's pretty visibly different nowadays, and this is pretty well done. When you're working off of a straight digital construct, you've got to create that thing from whole fucking cloth. And you're not de-aging something so much as you are just trying to bring somebody back from the dead. And I don't know how many times Frankenstein has to be told that never really turns out all that well, even in a virtual sense. It just, at the end of the day, at best, it's going to look like fucking tacky as balls. And at worst, ghoulish. Straight ghoulish. The
majority of times when these things look as bad as they do, it's because the artists, the digital artists, they're not given the time that they need to work on it. Great example of that is when they de-aged Luke Skywalker for The Mandalorian. The first time around, it looked like a PS2 model was walking around.
Ouch.
But for his next appearance in, I think, Mandalorian Season 3 or something, or Book of Boba Fett, it looks really good. He's walking around. It's bright sunlight, and the shading and everything and the movement actually looks good. It looks like a young Luke Skywalker.
A Book of Boba?
Book of Boba.
Book of Boba?
Boba.
Boba Boba?
Boba Tea.
Marvel review it. Rob's pointing out that Marvel did it first with RDJ, I think, in Civil War, but can be very wrong. You mean like first in the Marvel Universe?
Not sure. No, actually, they had a lot of experience with not with de-aging, but physical manipulation with Captain America. So remember the first scenes where he's a little short guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had some experience with that.
Yeah, they had to emaciate him somewhat. It's the same technology. I think he's talking about context though, because he had to be physically different for that role as well. And when you're looking at a de-aged actor, you're looking at him from a current, like a contemporary point of reference. They did a pretty good job with him in Civil War though, but also that could be because RDJ, he got cut. He's an actor, And come to think of it, maybe Kurt Russell did the same way too, but it's Kurt Russell.
No, I think the Marvel movies get it right because they're given the time to work on it, and in cases like Black Panther, where they're rushed out the door, it looks like two ragdolls flying around.
Oh, God. Yeah, that... right. No, there was actually a really egregious fucking flub in something Marvel-related recently, where I was just like... I'm trying to remember what it was. It's not coming to me, though, so let's move past it. But speaking of digital makeup, did you ever see the Ghostbusters sequel, Afterlife?
Yes.
And all right, so you know that they brought Harold Ramis back for that, right? Kind of, yeah. So when I first heard about this, I was just like, "Fucking great! This is going to be gross as hell." I liked the way they handled it. I don't necessarily think they could have put the entire narrative around him. That seemed to be a little bit forced, but the way that they did it was that throughout at least 3/4 of the movie, they shot around his face. They cut him off. Because most of these were in flashbacks, and they were vague memory flashbacks to begin with. And you weren't really supposed to know who the narrative was concerning at that point in the movie, right? So you just saw feet, you just saw arms, you just saw a workbench. These are vestiges of the character that we think we know, but maybe not.
It's the Jaws method. Don't show the monster until you need to.
Right. So eventually they showed the monster at the end, and they showed him as a ghost. And I was like, all right, I know they're going to do this, so get ready for it. It wasn't that bad.
And I think the reason it wasn't that bad is because, one, he wasn't talking.
He didn't talk. That's it. Yeah.
That could throw it off a little bit. But the other thing that really helps, and I see when de-aging or artificial look doesn't, or when it does work, it's because of particular lighting. If you light something a particular way, it looks more credible.
Yeah. Lighting, we know because we're fucking nerds, that lighting can absolutely smash or create a scene. It makes the shot.
Yes.
And people don't really think about that because of all the stuff that's just mise en scène to begin with, blocking, actors, the set, blah blah blah. But it's the lighting that pulls all of that together. And I think that when you're dealing with a director who's not a stage first director and only comes from a CG background, they consider it because they have to in the most fundamentally technical sense, but they don't really feel where it's going to go. It's like somebody who's really technical with a guitar, but still doesn't know how to solo. They might be proficient as fuck and reliable, but you're not going to be feeling it. And I know that's the film douchiest thing to be saying about this.
No. I get what you're saying. It's kind of like you're a sound engineer. You can tune a guitar. You can do everything. You just can't play it.
Right. There's something innate that's lacking. And it's like when you watch a really old movie, and I was talking to somebody about this. I saw The After Hours a couple of weeks ago, and that was a kind of sort of an obscure Martin Scorsese movie from the 80s. I was exhausted afterwards because I was like, this is a real movie. I forgot what these fucking things feel like. And because they're usually made nowadays with I guess such a rigid I don't want to say formula because that's needless cynicism, but there are expectations within the content that we consume that has to be produced for a very specific production line. For lack of a more elegant term. Well, you kind of approached it with that. The lighting is good. They used an actor this is his whole wheelhouse. He's basically a makeup actor like Doug Jones, just a little less famous. and then they applied like a digital wig and some embellishments afterwards to kind of age him upwards.
Right.
That I believe was like technically where they succeeded. A lot of thought went into that shot, and it was like total maybe 6 seconds of film. You know? And the fact now, when I was trying to draw the distinction between like tacky and ghoulish, tacky is when they let the character talk, and they didn't let him talk.
Sometimes that can break it. Yeah.
Yeah. They need that character, especially since it was like an implied exit. This guy is moving on from this movie or this story nowadays. This character is moving on from the story. I mean, we know why. People in the movie don't know why. He's just fucking dead. How'd he die? All these other mysteries are like coming to light in that moment. And that's all they need to know about him in that scene. Don't have him fucking talk. Don't say goodbye to your grandson or anything like that. He showed up to do what he needed to do. These guys know why. And now it's over. Exit scene.
Yeah.
That's how you fucking do that. That's how you bring somebody back from the dead. It has to be conceived of on the screenplay first. Not in post, you bitches. Anyway.
All right. So one other thing I wanted to talk about. Have you watched any of Secret Invasion?
Well, yeah. I mean,
a simple yes or no.
we were just talking about Sam Jackson, right?
Yeah.
The reason I mentioned him is because, I had unfortunately been watching Secret Invasion.
Okay, I'm like the series. It's like a low-key spy kind of show. So
low-key, it has.
It doesn't feel like a superhero show.
This is the reason I started watching it, because it was like a low-key spy thriller plus Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And once I saw the trailer, I was like, woo! Fucking went ghostly goobs. And it's got an amazing cast. It's got a fantastic fucking cast.
The show aside, the thing I think is getting way more discussion that I actually personally feel that doesn't deserve it is the intro for the series.
Oh, the
show
intro? Yeah.
Yeah, the AI, where it's obviously you've seen it, so it's kind of like this morphing. It's kind of like chat AI. If you type in like something and it gives you the graphic of it, and it looks all swirly and awful and weird, and the AI doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so this digital artist actually made the intro to look like that, which kind of fits the theme of how the Skrulls are infiltrating into human life, and they're kind of swirling and everything. It's weird. It's AI looking, but what I see online more than anything else is people complaining, you should hire real artists. Like, a real artist made that. A real artist, just because his canvas is a computer screen, that doesn't mean that he's not doing exactly what an artist should be doing. It's just, that's his style of art.
A real artist conceived of it. By the way, I'm totally with you on it. I don't believe there's an ethical quandary about it whatsoever. He used AI as a medium and not as a vehicle. That's
and it's
fine.
not so much. It's not like these TikTok filters where you're hitting a button and then it just wipes through and it gives you a different AI filter or whatever. It's definitely something more complex than that. It's not like you just hit the space bar. It's like, well, I got an intro.
What people kind of like fail to realize about AI is that they think it's just some sort of like this digital monomind that pulls from like all of these sources of already like pre-existing visuals and works in order to create it. I know it doesn't work like that. I mean, your few mostly well-known like AI composite modelers will pull from like readily available sources and then like cross-reference those against other ones, and then it sounds like I'm saying exactly what it just said doesn't happen. But the thing is that it's not as Skynet as people think it is. And they also think that it is just like people sitting behind a button that says, make me art.
Yeah.
And then it just...
Where's the art button?
I want art. Well, what setting do you want? I want big titty anime art. Boop. And then you press the button and all of a sudden you've got that. It's not... I was literally talking to somebody about this like last night. It's like, yeah, I want to start like an OnlyFans account where I'm just doing AI titty art. It's like, dude, it's not that simple. Trust me. It's not like a ham-ass Instagram account, dude. Trust me. Speaking as like an Instagram glitch artist with like no following fucking whatsoever, I should be bitter about this. I am where it counts. The guy that made the intro to Secret Invasion, which by the way is the least offensive part of that show to me, he should not, or they should not be getting the shit that they're getting over it.
No.
Like, and and most of the criticism is coming from people that just think that he just sat there and said, here's the art button. I hit it once. All of a sudden you've got this intro, and then that's it. It's clearly not the case. There is a definitive vision involved. And yeah, we can be like film school snotty about, the symbology that he incorporated into it. I got it. But you're attacking the wrong guy. You're attacking an artist who's using AI as his tool, not as a scapegoat, or not as, sheep's clothing,
Uh-huh.
This reminds me of the scene, review it, Rob says. That's like douchey shock jock shit. This reminds me of a scene in iRobot where Will Smith asks the robot if he can draw a masterpiece, and the robot replies, "Can you?" Oh, I've drawn many masterpieces in my time. All of them are strangely dick-shaped.
Remember the Great Dick War at Fox?
The Great Dick War. That wasn't me though. That was the work of two actual.
Yes, but you wanted to take part. You wanted to volunteer for that
I wanted
army.
to, and the reason I did it is because I was afraid that I wouldn't cut the fucking mustard. But dude, this is so
how
funny.
that all ended was the best part of that story.
I know. You can tell it. I've told enough people. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so people who didn't know, Corey and I used to work at a Fox affiliate here in Orlando, and some of the night crew and morning crew, I think it was, were getting into wars of leaving little notes of pictures of dicks, like hand-drawn pictures, not like they took photos of their own and
called
whatever.
it like the HOG'AGEDDON or the
HOG'AGEDDON, yeah,
something like that, yeah.
And then they would hide it like in scripts, or they would hide it like in a guy's locker. You would open it up, it's like, oh, okay, there's cack right there in my face.
My favorite one, which is not the one you're going to mention, my favorite one was when they. Oh, that is the one you're going to mention. I'm sorry.
No,
what? Let me see where you're going first. I want to see where you're going first. Okay.
Well, I was going to tell how it all came to an end.
Right. Well, put a stop to it.
Yeah. I think it was Casey or Don or one of the higher ups of the department, of our department, was giving a tour, opens up the control room, and we had like this little bulletin board where we put like notes and stuff, and it's like, there's a flaming hog right there for everyone to see.
He got the bulletin board like that month or something.
Yeah.
So they would be able to see each other's schedules. And the first thing you do is just like deface it.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, is he was not surprised at all.
He probably just looked at it, was like,
and there's a dick.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's the control room, guys. No, I thought it was like one of the two instances. The one where they left a hog. I guess they did like a telethon like the previous weekend, and somebody came in to like. Somebody came in to like pick up all the phones and round up all the hardware that they left behind, and they left a dick underneath the handset on one of the phones.
Was it the producer phone?
I don't know. I just remember that like Chico was telling somebody like had to clean up the phones, and they picked the receiver up, and they're like, all of a sudden there's a dick there. But that wasn't supposedly the crowning achievement. And this happened, I guess, before the bulletin board thing happened. Somebody, God, I can't even imagine a project of this scale. And some part of me still believes that maybe they're like bullshitting me somewhat. But Don apparently came back to his office one day. And do you remember how they had those cabinets over the desks where the lids would flip up? Right, and he kept them he kept file folders and books and shit in there. He came back to the office one day, and I guess that's where he kept his like employee vacation slips, and he pulls the lid up, and then all of a sudden, like the old style gatefold printer paper that he used to use through a dot matrix feeder, it came spilling out of it.
Where it's all perforated, like sheet after sheet after sheet.
It was taped to the lid, and the entire thing was a dick.
The funny thing is his office was in perfect view of the news director, so if they were looking over at the time, they would have saw that.
Rob's mentioning Superbad. That's the thing. All of this actually happened supposedly before I think Bob and I started working there. But when we started working there, Superbad just came out. And then all of a sudden it all started all over again. And and as soon as like Don caught like wind of a single dick hitting the bulletin board or something, he was like, guys, I can't let you do this again. So that was how we got roped into it. And then afterwards, my friend Vince and I kept the tradition alive on Facebook, and I'm so shocked we were able to do that. But like, if I did that nowadays, oh my god, I would have gotten reported like immediately. Oh shit! But that'd be really stupid because like mostly work people follow me on Facebook now. Yeah, that was the great dick off of 2008. And as for what that has to do with the writers and actors screen,
How do we transition?
I have no idea. Maybe Jonah Hill and Michael Cera are part of it. And their picket line signs are like, don't dick us or something like that.
As long as they're carrying a lighter with them.
As long as they're carrying a lighter with them. Yeah. Oh my god. All right. Is that what you call a closer?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go out.
Fuck.
Oh, God.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
It's so painfully on brand too.
Yeah. Review it, Rob. Theme Park Rob, and anyone else who might have just tuned in for a few minutes to listen to this insanity. Got to thank you an awful lot. Should we do this again?
Minutes.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm surprised that like we never talked about the hog off.
I think we touched on it.
Really?
We touched the tip.
We did.
He gave me that opening. Thank you.
We were gonna whip it out eventually. Phrasing. Are we doing phrasing again?
It dribbled out once in a while.
That's gonna. Hey, since Rob seems to know about Archer, what's your thoughts on it ending next year?
I'm behind by a season or two.
I thought you were gonna say I'm behind it ending because the last season sucked out loud.
Oh, really?
It's so unfunny now. Yeah, I can't believe what I like when they brought it back to the modern. Well, not the modern era. When they brought it back to, I guess, Archer's era, they started off like mega strong. That first episode with the Judas Priest opening was just like, shit, this is classic cinema. This is what TV's all about. And then like it was mostly interesting all the way up until like the middle of the season, and then once it remained interesting up until the end because then they started teasing that maybe he wasn't completely out of the Matrix yet. But then they kind of like wheeled back on that in the next season, and it was just like gags and shit. And I'm like, I can't even remember what happened in the season after that. And this season I've seen 2 episodes, and it's been like, Jesus, this is like so joyless. What the fuck happened? Yeah,
that's disappointing. But
yeah.
It's probably like, last season. Who cares?
Yeah, Adam Reed wrote 1 episode last season, and it fucking showed. It like nobody seemed to care. It was, how like the worst Simpsons episodes are all like references to jokes that they told in the past that landed.
Yeah,
and how fucking sad those are. It was a lot of that. So, mental note: if you ever get into like creating a televised TV comedy and it's super successful in its first 4 or so years, end it. just pull the plug on it, because eventually, if you let it go on, you're just going to be like referring to your own better fucking jokes, and that's terrible. That's like comedy death, but in the forever hallway, Anyway. All right, sorry, I was asking Rob a question. Shit, how'd that happen?
That's fine. But we are going to sign off. Guys,
yeah. Sorry.
Thanks for watching in. Thanks for giving us questions and commenting. Absolutely freaking loved it. We'll probably do this again another time. Can't tell you when, but because this doesn't always work. Sometimes we go live and no one watches.
Yeah,
but you guys made it worthwhile.
Sometimes I fuck up dinner and don't show up until like 20 minutes into the broadcast.
I was able to fill. I was starting to get dry, but I could fill for a while.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know we were on a schedule tonight. I would have. Yeah.
That's kind of what had made it feel more real when
showing up Johnny come lately like a dead Egon Spangler all of a sudden.
Well, I mean, it reminds me when I was a guest on the Monday Morning Monorail podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Where it was supposed to be them, me, and Landon.
Right.
And Landon got so freaking drunk, he forgot the time that we started. So he just popped in and he literally, for the rest of the show, was going, "Fireball!" That's all he would say.
The entire show?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure that would have killed.
It did the first 3 times. After that, have another drink there, dude.
I don't know. Maybe he can own it next time. Who knows?
Maybe he's made up for it by helping me out with a few things. But
cool.
In the meantime, guys, again, thanks for watching. We are going to sign off. You can get hold of us. Our Cretans Guild socials are at Cretans Guild on.
The Rob Mob is ready. Fucking A.
The Council of Robs. We have the Council of Bobs of Theme Park Rob, myself, and Bob the Cocktail Bob.
What about $100 Rob?
Who's $100 Rob?
He lives with you. You know $100.
Oh,
legendary $100 Rob.
Okay, Robbie. Yes.
Yeah, Robbie. That's right.
There's also Random Rob.
That's true. There's also Random Rob, but he's too random, so we can't really
Yeah.
He's unreliable. He's Random Rob.
So if you want to find out of our socials, you know the deal. Look for Cretans Guild on Instagram, Twitter, and I don't know. We still have a Facebook account, I think, but I don't know why we don't update it because
can't post any hogs on it.
Yeah. We do have links to our shops where you can find some of our merchandise is there. I know Theme Park Rob's got this beautiful orange Halloween style t-shirt of ours that we're all getting ready to wear for Halloween Horror Nights in just a couple of weeks. So that's probably gonna be another discussion for us pretty soon.
God, already?
Yeah.
Ugh. Christ.
What do you mean? We live for this.
Well, I used to when I had money.
Well, come on down. I'll take you.
I'll try to if I can do it.
Right.
I just had a really good idea with all the Rob following that we've got going in our favor. I had a pretty slick idea for like the next Cretans Championship after the show. So
okay,
it's a secret. It's a secret. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. Okay. Had the standard black. Who's still in? Oh yes, HHN talk. It's the season. I just wasn't aware.
Well, it's almost the season.
Almost.
I just bought my Rush of Fear pass, so, and they don't even have all the houses announced yet.
Oh, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, they're delaying it this year. So after all that, guys, we just got to say thanks for watching again. And what the hell do we seg out with?
Dicks.
Yeah. There's a hog. Good night.
This was a podcast of the PODFIX Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
To all your dogs and cats.